unfortunately not all of it, because they were already starting to move things out. And this was open when they first moved in. And this was added, well, it's been more than a few years ago. It was like 15, I think. Yeah. They added this.
Take a look at the Ford cars and see if you see anything similar. I won't say anything, but see if you can figure it out. And then the roof, too.
So they want me to use this little microphone so the webcast can hear it. And I don't think this and that are going to both reach the Wi-Fi antenna at the same time. So I'm going to hit the button. Anyway, when I was in... My name's Kevin Baird. I grew up in Santa Barbara pretty much. When I was in high school, I took some astronomy classes through San Diego City College. And one of the things we got to do was take a field trip to Rockwell and NASA to see a space shuttle being built. This was in 1982. The first shuttle, I think, launched in 81. And we get up to... so the space shuttle program is pretty new. They'd run probably 2 or 3 missions by this point, and then by the time the Challenger was finished, it was STS-6. So it was still at the very beginning of the program. So this was in June, and it was almost done. It was 10 months before its first launch, and this is the astronomy professor who still teaches at Santa Barbara City College, who facilitated the trip, and they haven't been able to do anything like this, since. So first stop was the Dryden Flight Research Center at Edwards Air Force Base, which is, the landing area on the West Coast, and, they have a bunch of facilities there for transportation of the shuttle. Once it lands and has to go back to Florida, they piggyback it on that, so, that was out there on the tarmac, the 747, and... So I got a couple angles of that. I dug up these slides and scanned these slides yesterday to get these all together.
Is this from your actual trip?
Yeah, this is from the trip I took in 1982. Wow. These are the slides I shot when I was in high school. This is the Enterprise. This is the one that they flew up and glided down to see if the thing was going to land, the lead sled, to test the aerodynamics. And, it has a steep approach. It's like 3 times steeper than an airliner approach, and you only get one shot because it's a glider, so just... You got to kind of stick it.
What is that one?
So this is the Enterprise. This is the first one that they did.
That one was go to space, or that was just a test?
Yeah, this was the test that they dropped from the plane, out at Edwards, and to do the test landing. So they built the whole airframe, and it wasn't really a real shuttle.
It was on the top or on the bottom? On the top.
Yeah, they piggyback it on top. Yeah, and then when I lifted off, it went up. And then I guess the 747 peeled off, and then it glided down. I forget the altitude they did, but that test I think was done in like 78.
That's pretty impressive.
You can see some of the parts are missing. They're actually taking parts off of it to put on real shuttles. So this OMS pod, Orbital Maneuvering System pod, went over to get plugged onto one of the other shuttles. Probably not Challenger because it was almost done.
Did they reattach pieces for the Udvar-Hazy display?
I don't know what they've done since, because I know they have a lot of the stuff set up. I haven't been to the Aerospace Museum, Smithsonian ever. It's on my list one of these days.
Yeah, I think
so
the Enterprise is there, right?
I believe so.
The new place, I think.
Across.
The old place.
I'm not sure.
It's at Udvar-Hazy, so it's
Yeah, it was in the mall originally, I thought, and then they moved it to the new place.
Yeah, so I haven't been up to date on all that stuff. I haven't seen any of it, since this time. So once we got finished with our walk-around tour and looked at some other planes at Dryden, we headed about 30 miles south to Palmdale, where Rockwell is, and they were the guys that were building the shuttle. So we walk inside this huge hangar. I don't know how many acres it was inside, and you can see it's a big welcome sign and a sign here and a sign here. So this sign says Challenger, and there's an arrow to a big pile, like a 6-story pile of scaffolding. So we walk up to this thing, and somewhere inside that thing is a whole space shuttle.
Wow.
So you can see a nose cone in here somewhere. Yeah, this little gray thing right there is a nose cone of the shuttle, and they're pretty much finishing assembly on it. we got to walk underneath it. These are the tiles on the belly. And over here's tiles on the landing gear door, and the whole thing is jacked up a couple of feet, so the landing gear's down, but it's not touching the floor. So the whole thing is just basically suspended in metal. And we walked under it. This is the cargo bay door open up front, I believe, of the wing. I think the wing is back here. And so we got to walk under it. And then we got to walk upstairs on scaffolding and look down inside it. So on this side, the door is shut, and on this side, the door is open. And the cargo bay, I think, is 60 by 15 feet, 15 feet wide. So it's a huge space. You walk right up to it. It's a pretty large, 60 feet is like 2 living rooms on a pretty big house. So then we walked around the other side. If I dropped my lens cap, it could have gone into space. It could have fallen in this thing and landed up in space. We got...
Give you quad training or anything?
Yeah, exactly. We they told us to be really careful. We couldn't actually go and touch it, but we were so close. We almost could. So this is another angle, from back above the wing looking up front. And then next door on the other side of the middle of the building, they were starting the Discovery. So this is just a giant hunk of aluminum covered in green primer. Anti-corrosive primer. That's the bottom half of the shuttle Discovery. So yeah, that was the third one they built, right? Yep. Yeah. So and then we got to go up above and look inside, and look kind of like a big boat, in a way. You can see the bulkheads across it, and it's for the cargo bay. And so it's just like the shell of the beginning. So we got to see very close to the end where people are literally gluing the tiles onto the bottom of the shuttle. The tiles were actually interesting anyway because each tile came in a shoebox-sized box, and it had an inch of paperwork documenting its construction and its testing and all this stuff. And there's about 30,000 of these. They're all unique. They had a specific place to go. They're all numbered, and each one had a box, and a life and a past.
I'm almost surprised they let you photograph in here.
Well, I was surprised they let us go in there.
Yeah, that's
cameras
I'm
are
really
not.
Surprised they
It
let
is
you take.
public. It is public. It's not as
So you can look up all
Yeah.
the schematics
Yeah.
if you want.
All of it's available through Freedom of Information Act. That's why they
Maybe if it
go
was 10 years
inside where
earlier,
they're-
though, wouldn't have been.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah,
When the Russians, when we were racing,
it's
I guess
it's
this
all
was
available.
after
It's
most of
public
it.
domain.
You know Declan, right? So
Yeah.
Declan apparently he did something similar when he was he was in high school. He went to something. They studied the space shuttle as part of their aerospace project. And he took some blueprints home.
Yeah.
The Secret Service came to his house and took them away from him.
Really?
So,
Wow.
so I'm curious, now what, right? Because it is open, right? But this is also back in the 80s.
Yeah,
I'm saying maybe
and
was it back then?
the people that were building all these things were,
You're still seeing private property.
and the people that have always built these things are mainly defense contractors.
Yeah.
So it's hard for them to keep everything separated,
this is
maybe.
Wicked cool.
And so these are some of the wing flaps and things that we're going to go on later from above. And this is like a parts shop. So, then this is when they were taking it over. This was, I think, in Florida when they were about to launch it, and the first launch was in April of '83, STS-6, and then Sally Ride rode up on STS-7. So that was her first flight, first American woman in space, right? And so that was in '83, which is the year I got out of high school.
Yeah, they're
And,
already to the brown tank.
Yeah, that's what I was
The unpainted.
Yeah, they had only done 2 with the white tank.
White tank.
By the
It's
third
500 pounds. I understand.
1,000. I think
I thought it was
I think
1,000.
I heard
I thought it was
6. I
500.
thought it was 6,000 pounds
It's a
of
ridiculous
paint,
amount for the paint.
of the white paint on that thing. But I don't know. Maybe that paint held the insulation together better than.
maybe it was original design.
Yeah. So then I grabbed the patch for the first one, and obviously the last one, STS-51L. Only 3 years later, this happened.
I remember that day.
Yeah,
I was actually
who doesn't remember
in
that
college
day?
when it
Yeah,
That's kind of my Kennedy thing.
Exactly.
You'll never get where you're at.
Yeah, I was
Yep.
in 6th grade.
74.
I was in 4th.
I was in
Yeah.
college.
yeah. I was in
I
college.
was 4 years old. I take
I
that.
was in college also. I think I was a sophomore.
Nicely
So
done.
that's pretty much, how they built them
That was
back in
great,
the day.
dude. That was
So,
pretty neat. That was
It's
cool seeing
amazing
those
how much
pictures.
that looks like a 747 construction. I know they're radically different engineering, but it's amazing how much it looks like, because the way I think about it in my brain, it's probably like a NASCAR or something compared to a regular car, right? All
It's not
crazy.
that different, actually.
Yeah, it's not that different.
It's not that different.
yeah, there's
It is a plane.
Well, the sealing system, the sealing of it is that. I guess I don't know. In the upper atmosphere, you got to seal pretty good too.
There's no doubt
So
there's specialized systems.
they awarded the contract. I was looking this up, and they awarded the contract in '72, and this thing started getting built in '78. So for 5 years, I think it was at Boeing being a test structure, basically. So they're using the airframe for it to do various aerodynamic tests and whatnot on the one that became Challenger. And so this thing actually had kind of a long history, and then they built 2 more based on that, and much shorter turnaround time. But this one had been kind of around the block, I guess, before they actually, put it together and shot it up into space. But
they could have been doing limits testing.
yeah, and I think they did some of that stuff at Boeing, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, a lot of these, there was another one, a Spatial Explorer, which, sounds like something for kids, right? Well, it turns out all they made was the front clip, the very front nose, to do tests on gear and stuff that would go in their computers and things, and then they donated it to Kennedy Space Center. That's the little one that sits out there, so they had to make a fake rear end for it.
Yeah.
That's why it's 40 feet shorter than a regular shuttle or something like that.
Yeah.
I walked up to it, I'm like, that's a stubby looking shuttle. And they're like, this was an actual blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, it is not actually. Like, it turns out it was, just the front.
Because part of it was, yeah.
So do you know why they haven't been able to do anything like that since?
The tours?
Yeah.
They don't build them.
Well, yeah, that's one reason. But I don't know, it was, companies are protective about things. The Cold War was on. And then shortly after, the whole Challenger disaster happened, manufacturing processes were under extreme scrutiny. So everybody, the whole risk management culture kicked in, and I don't know.
I don't know, Riley, have you ever been to a government facility where they manufacture aircraft before? Yes, you have. No. General Atomics.
Oh yeah.
So even
In Poway?
Yeah. So, almost anybody, as long as you're a U.S. citizen, can come in and get a tour, sponsor tour. But sure,
You
friends,
can do those in
family, all
Florida,
kinds
too.
of stuff. Yeah. So they make it accessible. Our company does it mainly for VIPs and families and stuff like that. But even when we were at Kennedy, you can get access to huge sections of what they're doing. So.
Yeah, when we were in high school, we did the whole space camp thing.
Sure.
And they actually let us go in and sit on in the shuttle during I'm sorry, that was actually a movie. This is like the only audience who would understand that.
This one time at space camp when I
This one
stowed
time at
away
space
on the
camp.
space shuttle?
Yeah, and my robot clicked the button and made us go to orbit. And it was
Yeah, Space Camp in Huntsville, Alabama.
yes.
There was somebody who wanted to create a foundation so that every kid could go there for free. And for whatever reason, he backed out and never made the donation. The foundation only would have needed something like $5 million to do it, and then to sustain it. It would have to have been invested. It's a tiny amount. Because the actual space camp isn't that expensive.
It's the
Getting there
airfare
is-
and
yeah,
hotel.
it's still
And
expensive, but they wanted to make it free for any kid. You could go for free. You just had to get there.
wow,
And it's a week, and it's a pretty big deal.
that's the kind of thing that we need to do now.
I actually believe, if we had been able to go to the other one,
Yeah.
we could have checked out the show. To be like, oh, this is what's in Huntsville.
It's pretty neat, though.
Yeah. They have a lot of old rockets here.
They do. Well, Redstone Arsenal's right there. So the original, the V2 goes all the way up through the Mercury program. That's just an evolution of the V2.
And the V2 scientists
Then
go
the Atlas,
beyond that.
which was built here in San Diego. So it's interesting. It's
Great pictures.
Thanks.
Are you going to stick those on Flickr?
Yeah, I'll probably put them on
oh,
Flickr.
that's cool.
Yeah, so I'll tweet a location with a space up tag on it later on.
Yeah, there's like a SpaceUp wiki that we can put all this information on, right? I wrote down a lot of things to put somewhere.
I've been using Twitter with the hashtag.
I think Eva Dot is putting up a wiki or something.
It's it's just the first time. So the goal is to try to keep growing it and make it bigger. Yeah, it's really good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now these guys are here too.
I did see Challenger take off. I think maybe.
Oh yeah.